If a woman ever does this for you and you miss it, you will lose her without a warning. And the most painful part is this: by the time you realize what it meant, she's already emotionally gone. I'm speaking to you as a psychologist, but also as someone who has listened to women tell the same story over and over again in private when no man was in the room. Loyalty is not what most men think it is. It doesn't start with commitment, rules, or promises. It starts much earlier, in a place most men never look. A woman becomes loyal when she feels emotionally safe with you. Not entertained, not impressed, safe. And safety is not about being nice or agreeable. It's about emotional consistency. When a woman feels she can predict your emotional presence, your reactions, your respect, your stability, her nervous system relaxes. That relaxation is the foundation of loyalty. Without it, no amount of attraction will keep her anchored. Here's the first sign she's capable of staying loyal to you long term. She brings problems to you instead of talking about you. When something hurts her, confuses her, or scares her, she comes to you first. That means she believes the connection is a place of repair, not danger. Most men misunderstand this and become defensive, dismissive, or emotionally unavailable in these moments. And when that happens, something breaks quietly. She learns that honesty costs her safety. Another sign is subtle but powerful. She regulates herself for the relationship. She pauses before reacting. She chooses her words carefully. She doesn't escalate emotions just to win. This is not weakness. This is emotional investment. She is protecting the bond because it matters to her nervous system. Loyalty begins here, not when temptation appears, but when restraint is chosen. You'll also notice she includes you in her inner decision-making. She considers how choices affect you, even when you're not around. That means you exist in her emotional future. Psychology calls this cognitive inclusion, and it only happens when attachment has formed. You don't include someone you plan to replace. But here's where men unknowingly destroy loyalty. They mistake emotional safety for permanence. They stop listening closely. They interrupt. They minimize feelings. They assume she'll always adjust, always understand, always stay. What actually happens is her emotional system starts keeping score, not consciously, biologically. Loyalty isn't lost in a dramatic moment. It erodes when a woman repeatedly feels unheard, unseen, or emotionally unsafe while still loving you. And when her system finally decides the bond is unpredictable, it starts preparing an exit long before her behavior changes. If a woman is still explaining herself to you, still expressing disappointment, still trying to be understood, you are not losing her. That effort is loyalty in action. Silence is not peace. Silence is detachment. Most men only recognize loyalty when it's tested by another man, but psychologically, loyalty is tested every time you respond, or fail to respond, to her emotional truth. Understand this now, before it's too late. Because once a woman stops feeling emotionally safe with you, her loyalty doesn't fight. It doesn't argue. It releases. And when that happens, no promises in the world can bring it back. When a woman is deeply capable of staying loyal to you, she begins to show a behavior most men misunderstand or completely overlook. She becomes emotionally transparent, even when it risks discomfort. This is not drama. This is trust. A woman does not expose her emotional reactions, insecurities, or fears to a man she plans to betray. She does it with the man she hopes will understand her. One of the clearest signs of this is when she tells you how your actions affect her instead of silently adjusting and pulling away. She doesn't disappear. She doesn't play games. She speaks. That means her loyalty is still alive. Her nervous system believes there is a chance for repair. Men often respond by explaining instead of listening, defending instead of understanding. And in doing so, they unknowingly teach her that honesty costs too much. Another powerful indicator is how she handles attention from others. A loyal woman doesn't need to announce that she's loyal. She creates boundaries without being asked. She doesn't seek emotional validation elsewhere because she feels emotionally fulfilled where she is. Loyalty isn't about resisting temptation. It's about not needing it. When a woman feels emotionally nourished by a man, External attention loses its power. Watch how she reacts when you're not at your best, when you're stressed, uncertain, or struggling. If she leans in instead of pulling away, that's not obligation, that's attachment. Her nervous system has bonded to yours. She wants stability with you, not perfection from you, but this bond is sensitive. If her support is met with emotional absence or indifference, she doesn't complain immediately. She internalizes. And internalized disappointment is where loyalty quietly begins to weaken. You'll also notice she protects the relationship when you're not present. She speaks about you with respect. She doesn't invite interference. This isn't because she's afraid to lose you. It's because she values the bond. Respect is a behavioral expression of loyalty, and it often shows up before commitment ever does. Here's a truth most men are never told. Loyalty is not sustained by control. It's sustained by emotional responsiveness. When a woman feels emotionally responded to, heard, considered, respected, her attachment deepens. When she feels ignored or minimized, her system begins searching for emotional regulation elsewhere, even if she never intends to act on it. Another sign is patience. A loyal woman doesn't rush timelines to feel secure. She believes in the connection enough to let it develop naturally. But patience has a limit. It survives on consistent emotional availability. When availability becomes unpredictable, patience turns into self-protection. What breaks loyalty faster than anything else is emotional invalidation. Telling her she's overreacting, comparing her needs to other women, dismissing feelings as irrational. These moments don't start fights, they start exits, because a woman who no longer feels emotionally safe stops investing emotionally. If she's still trying to explain herself to you, you are not behind. You are being trusted. That window doesn't stay open forever. Loyalty doesn't announce when it's leaving. It simply stops feeling possible. Men often ask why a woman stayed loyal for years and then suddenly changed. She didn't change suddenly. She waited quietly, hoping for emotional safety to return. When it didn't, her loyalty didn't shatter. It dissolved. When a woman is truly capable of staying loyal to you long-term, her behavior shifts from seeking reassurance to offering stability. This is where loyalty becomes quiet, consistent, and easy to miss. She no longer needs constant proof. Her nervous system has settled, and that calm is often mistaken by men as comfort that requires no maintenance. One of the most important signs is how she responds during emotional distance. Every relationship experiences moments of disconnection. A loyal woman doesn't immediately detach. She reaches for reconnection. She asks questions. She checks in. She tries to restore closeness rather than escape discomfort. This effort is emotional loyalty in its purest form. When these attempts are ignored or brushed aside, something inside her begins to shut down. You'll notice she becomes more forgiving, but not forgetful. She lets things go because she values the bond, not because the hurt disappears. Each unresolved moment is stored emotionally, not as resentment, but as information. Over time, her nervous system learns whether closeness with you leads to safety or disappointment. Loyalty survives only when safety wins more often than pain. Another sign is how she mirrors your emotional energy. When you're calm, she relaxes. When you're present, she opens. When you withdraw, she becomes cautious. Women are deeply responsive to emotional environments. If she's still attuned to your emotional state, loyalty is active. The moment she stops adjusting emotionally, detachment has begun. Pay attention to how she includes you in her personal growth. She shares insights, lessons, reflections. She wants you to know who she's becoming. This isn't oversharing, it's integration. You don't integrate someone into your evolving identity unless you intend to keep them there. But when this sharing is met with indifference or dismissal, the integration reverses. Loyal women also set boundaries not to push you away, but to protect the connection. She tells you what hurts her. She tells you what she needs. Silence would be easier. Boundaries take courage. When boundaries are ignored or crossed repeatedly, loyalty doesn't fight harder. It adapts by emotionally stepping back. Here's the psychological truth men rarely hear. Loyalty is not a personality trait. It's a relational outcome. Women aren't loyal because they're good women. They're loyal because the relationship consistently meets emotional needs. When those needs are unmet, even the most loyal woman begins to detach, not out of malice, but out of self-preservation. Another overlooked sign is how she handles conflict aftermath. A loyal woman wants repair. She wants to return to emotional closeness. She doesn't punish with silence. She doesn't withhold affection. But if repair is repeatedly delayed or denied, she stops reaching for it. And when she stops reaching, loyalty has already begun to fade. Men often think loyalty disappears when another man appears. In reality, loyalty disappears when emotional safety disappears. Another man doesn't create disloyalty. He only reveals that the bond was already weakened. If she's still trying to reconnect after distance, still asking for emotional presence, still believing in repair, loyalty is alive. But loyalty cannot survive alone. It requires response. When a woman stops trying to fix what feels broken, she isn't being cruel. She's being realistic. And by the time she emotionally lets go, her decision feels calm, not dramatic. That calm is the sound of loyalty quietly leaving the room. When a woman reaches the deepest level of loyalty, it shows up not as intensity, but as steadiness. This is the stage most men misunderstand, because it doesn't feel urgent. It feels secure. And security, when taken for granted, is where loyalty is most often lost. A woman who is capable of staying loyal long-term begins to emotionally settle into the relationship. She stops scanning for exits. She stops comparing. Her nervous system has decided that this bond is stable enough to invest in. You'll see it in how she relaxes around you. Her tone softens. Her defenses drop. She becomes more herself, not more impressive. This is not complacency. This is trust. She also begins to accept influence from you. Your opinions matter. Your words shape her decisions. This is a powerful form of vulnerability. People do not allow influence from someone they plan to betray. Loyalty is reflected in whose voice lives in her head when making choices. If your voice is there, the bond is strong. Another sign is how she handles temptation, not by resisting it with effort, but by not being emotionally available to it at all. When a woman feels emotionally fulfilled, outside attention doesn't register as opportunity. It feels irrelevant. Loyalty at this level is not a struggle. It's a byproduct of satisfaction. But here is the hard truth. This stage of loyalty is the most fragile when neglected. Because when a woman feels safe, she assumes continuity. She believes the emotional environment will remain consistent. When emotional presence begins to disappear, less listening, less curiosity, less care, her system becomes confused. Confusion creates anxiety, and anxiety erodes safety. If she brings this up, if she asks what's changed, if she expresses feeling distant, this is loyalty trying to save itself. Dismissing these moments is the fastest way to break it, because once her nervous system decides the bond is unpredictable, loyalty can no longer anchor. The final sign of loyalty is also the quietest. She chooses you even when you're not watching, in conversations, in thoughts, in decisions. She protects the image of the relationship internally. But when this protection is no longer reciprocated, when she feels alone inside the bond, loyalty no longer makes sense. When a woman emotionally detaches, it doesn't feel dramatic to her. It feels peaceful. That peace comes from no longer hoping. And hope is the fuel of loyalty. So here's the question I want you to answer honestly, without ego or excuses. Did the woman you're thinking about stop being loyal, or did she stop feeling emotionally safe? Write your answer in the comments. If this resonated, like the video, subscribe, and share it with a friend who needs to hear this before they lose someone who was already choosing them.